Hi guys, this is Warbird 66 and today I'm here with the HobbyKing BF110, Durafly's latest Warbird. I was pretty happy when I heard that Durafly will release a 110, so I ordered one as soon as it was available. And it didn't take very long before the box was lying on my living room floor. Very nice plane, really. But after unpacking this nice new bird, the problem started. I found a few things that I didn't like very much, and I wasn't sure if I should mention them in this review. I mean, we all heard about little problems with new planes. A loose bolt here, not so nicely glued spar there. But usually all these mistakes don't appear in one plane. The first problem I noticed was that the pilots were loose inside the cockpit, and that there was paint and glue all over the cockpit windows. After that I started to check the plane for other mistakes, and unfortunately I found a lot of them. It was a bit surprising to me, to be honest, because Durafly usually has such a good reputation among pilots. Still I decided not to hide these things from you, so here's a little list of the problems I had with my 110. Of course all these little problems were repairable, so no real harm done. But because this was my first Durafly bird, I was not really impressed. As you can see, the list of problems is pretty extensive, so I'm sure you can understand why I thought of throwing the damn thing out of the window for a minute. But after a cup of coffee or two, I started to work my way through the problems. And what came out was a pretty cool looking plane. It's far from perfect yet, of course, but it's a good starting point. And when I look at it, I get a few nice ideas about how I could change or modify it. And while we speak about modifying things, of course I modified the gear a little. In this case it's a little bit more tricky because of the gear doors. The mod itself is relatively easy. You loosen the screws of the retracts a little and slide a few small washers under the rear screws, which moves the gear a little bit forward and changes the angle of the retracts. The tricky part is that if the washers are too thick, the gear doors won't close anymore. So you have to experiment a little. The washers I used are about 1.5 mm thick, and with these you will be able to move the support point of the gear about 6 mm further forward. Which doesn't sound much, but helps a lot to prevent nose-overs. If you fly on concrete or something like that, I'm sure you don't need it. But if you guys fly on a grass field, I strongly recommend that you take a few minutes and install the washers. It really helps a lot. After that I installed my RC gear. The plane is not that spacious, but you have enough place to put everything in. And sorry for the spaghetti, but I didn't cut the cables yet. I will do that after the test flights. I use the recommended 2200 mA 3S LiPo for my plane, which I put all the way up in the nose. To achieve the preferred CG of 65 mm from the leading edge of the wing, I had to put about 18 to 20 grams of lead into the nose. After that I closed the hatch and went out to the field. It was time for the maiden flight. So let's see how the new 110 flies. As you can see, I had to do a little trimming, a little aileron and rudder and of course a little elevator, but nothing too serious. And by the way, if you guys can hear the wind in the background, it was actually not as bad as it might sound. There were only about 12 kph wind speed. After trimming her out, I tried to get a feel for the plane, which is actually not that difficult because the BF-110 behaves very well in the air. She is relatively easy to handle, and the only thing I noticed was that she was kind of touchy on the rudder, which might have something to do with the rudders being directly in the prop wash. She is not that fast, the ram motors are relatively small, but she has enough power to climb easy and to get out of a difficult situation if you need it. After a few more turns I started to get some altitude for the glide and the stall test. I turned her into the wind and stopped the motors, but nothing really happened. The plane glides very well. Well, not that I actually expected something crazy. I let her glide for a few seconds and looked how she behaved, but there was nothing crazy going on. She responded to rudder and ailerons very well, so I turned the motors back on and started to climb again for the stall test. The only thing odd during the glide was that the propellers were still spinning because I activated the brakes before I took off.
Ja, aber ich mache erstmal kurz Stall-Test. Motor aus, Höhe ziehen.
The stall test went actually pretty well, because I chopped the throttle and slowly pulled back the elevator. And as you can see, the only thing the plane did was drop the nose a little. So the 110 really seems to have no bad tendencies.
So, ich komme rein zur Landung.
After that, it was time for the landing. So I put the gear down and turned her into the wind. The plane slowed down a little, but not that bad. To be on the safe side, I put the throttle on idle during the approach. The only thing I noticed was that the plane was very floaty. Even at these slow speeds, the plane responded well to all control inputs, and the landing was relatively easy. Well, it was a little bit bumpy. I guess I need more practice. So, this was my review of the HobbyKing BF110, Durafly latest Warbird. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about it or the plane, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching. Warbird 1066 out.